From Russia with Love is a 1963 film directed by Terence Young, and of course is the second film in the James Bond franchise. It stars Bernard Lee, Daniela Bianchi, Lottie Lenya, Vladek Sheybal, and of course Sean Connery as James Bond. And this film is coming out a year after the first film was released in 1962, and the success of the first film, of course, meant that this film got about double the budget. And Terence Young has taken that budget and he has made a more refined Bond film which feels recognisably, again, like Bond. And what we have here is a film that feels a lot more stylish and more suave and feels more like Bond, like I think Terence Young was trying to with the first film, but either he didn't have enough money or he hadn't fully grounded his vision. But he has taken the success of the first film and he has taken that foundation and he has made something much better this time around. The story of From Russia with Love is kind of hard to summarise, but it basically involves the secret organisation called Spectre planning to steal a cryptographic device called the Lecter from the Soviets, and they plan to get James Bond to kind of be their pawn in this endeavour. And the plan is that when Spectre gets this device back, they're going to sell it back to the Soviets for, you know, a little bit of dosh, and at the same time they're going to try and get revenge on James Bond for killing their top agent Dr. No in the first film. And how do they plan to get James Bond involved? Well, they use some bait, and what's the best bait to use on a character like James Bond? It's a woman. A nice looking woman by the name of Tatiana, played by Daniela Bianchi, is hooked into the scheme and she is unwitting to the true motives of Spectre. She feels as though she is helping her country in doing this mission. And to top it all off, Robert Shaw plays a Russian assassin, this big beefy guy, to go and kill Bond, and that is essentially our story setup. And right from the beginning in From Russia with Love, we feel like this is a more refined version. The title sequence has its own song, From Russia with Love, of course, and the title sequence itself is a lot more stylish and feels more like James Bond. A very stylish intro, it's very enjoyable to watch and is a good start to the film that reduces the monotony of many opening credit scenes from other films. And this time, before we meet James Bond, you know, his character's already established in the first film, I guess. Before we actually meet him, we meet the villains, and they are established. I did complain in the first film, I didn't think Dr. No was such an incredible villain. I thought he was fairly standard. But in this film, there's not only many villains, but there's some that aren't gone into especially, and they've kept a mystery, which is very good. There's also villains that come straight for him, and they're all very well laid out. The villains in this film are much better than Dr. No on their own. And so if you think that a Bond film was made by its villain, they've given you a bunch here that are all pretty good in their roles. With, of course, the shadowy head of Spectre with his cat that he sits there stroking from behind. That's really classic stuff. His identity's kept a mystery, and I just think it's well done. And then we get introduced to Bond, and it really feels like Sean Connery feels a lot more comfortable in this James Bond skin. He is such a good actor for the role. He's my personal favourite Bond so far. Admittedly, I have a lot more of these films to watch. I really enjoy him, and he does a brilliant job playing the character here. And he gets to go on this adventure infused with more humour, a little bit more action, though some of the effects are a little bit hokey, but come on, it's 1963, you'll give it a pass. Some green screens are a little bit but overall, many action sequences are enjoyable to watch, and the bigger budget contributes to this, and the bigger budget also contributes to the fact that we get a lot more settings in this film. There's a lot more places for James Bond to go. There's a load of different places, and there's a load of different things for him to do in each of these places, which makes the story feel more varied, and it definitely helps the pacing, which the first film suffered from. It had a bit of a pacing problem, especially in the middle. It felt a little bit sluggish. From Russia with Love, I thoroughly enjoyed all the way through, and I never thought that it felt all that sluggish at all. And also, the Bond girl in this film becomes part of the story. She is still a little bit annoying. She is still a bit of a pushover, although she does eventually have a genuine tangible effect. But the idea of her being sort of a unknowing double agent, if that makes sense, that idea is also quite interesting and adds more to the character, even though for most of the film she's not that well acted and she's a bit of a pushover. But because the pace is improved, a lot less of the film feels stagnated, and that just in general makes the film feel much better than the first one did. And you also get some very memorable scenes. For example, there's a section of the film which is set on a train, and it feels very claustrophobic in a way on a train, not like a horror film or anything, but it's quite inventive how the director gets his angles in such an enclosed space, and I quite enjoyed the whole setting in general, you know, being constantly in motion. I guess Harry Potter has kind of spoiled me for train settings, but you know, whatever. You know, it creates a very memorable sequence, and some very memorable hand-to-hand fighting sequences occur in these bits. Though there are some bits of the film which admittedly do feel unnecessary and stagnated, especially a sequence in a gypsy camp. I mean, James Bond just kind of sits there watching some people do some belly dancing, and it's like, yeah, they're belly dancing, great, what is this? And then two women start fighting? Like, what do you think these people are? These aren't caged animals. They're just gypsy women. What are you doing? I think it just feels kind of off-putting sticking this bit in the middle of the film where these two women are just scrapping it on the floor, wearing barely anything. You know, that's not really what I came to see, and it's not as tasteful as some aspects of Bond can be. I found it kind of off-putting. It's a bit silly, but it's a short sequence in the end, and it leads to something important, so it's kind of a nitpick in general. The thing about From Russia with Love is it's one of those sequels, you know, one of those big mythical sequels, these legendary things, where it's better in every single way. By no means a perfect film, absolutely not, but Terence Young has learnt from his first film. He's been given the tools to make something better, and he does a fantastic job. A thoroughly enjoyable film. I've seen it a bunch of times, gonna continue to keep watching it. A great time at the movies. Overall, I give From Russia with Love an 8 out of 10. Very good film overall, very enjoyable. Some scenes feel a little bit unnecessary, but for the most part, it's a big improvement on Dr. No. But what did you think of From Russia with Love? Do you agree with me, or do you disagree and you actually think that Dr. No is a much better film, or do you disagree in another direction? You think that From Russia with Love actually is really, really bad? But whatever you think, I'd love to hear it, so comment in the boxes below and let me know what you think. Also, if you like this video, please like and favourite using the buttons below. You know what to click. And if you really like this video and you want to see more, please subscribe, because there's always going to be more and it helps me so much more than you know. Thank you again for watching.